All right, well, we've got a job ahead of us. We've got to model. I'm going to hide this. We're going to model this. And if I Alt H and unhide it, it's not altogether easy, for someone like me anyway. But the other thing is I want to situate this in a broader landscape. So I've got this with the DEM in, and I also have somewhere in my import, I've got a georeferenced raster for the area. Let me see if I can find that georeferenced raster. So it should be under, maybe it's under boundary maps, another. So no, it's not there. I'm going to pause and find it by hitting Alt. All right, so I've got this cemetery TIFF, and I can bring that in. And let's see what it looks like when it comes in. It's probably way down somewhere. Where did it go? So there's cemetery. No, that's actually, or maybe it's way down below. Let me undo. So it looks like I erased something. So let's undo that. So that's the cemetery that we had when we started. In fact, I'm going to restart this without saving that because I wasn't paying attention. So this has an export satellite that we brought in from Blender's Web Geodata base map. That's where that came in. And it has a car that I brought in right there, and I made a little animation of the car driving. And I also made it so that when you're looking through the camera's tracking the car, as you can see. So that was fun to do. But now we're looking at bringing in more data. So when I bring in this, so I bring in GIS import and bring in the georeferenced TIFF, you'd think that it would lay in there. Let me do cemetery region and see what happens there. So there that is, and it seems like it obscures or knocks out the other one. So that's not good. Or is it just that it's so big? Like if I click on the export map and hit the period key, there's the export map. But it doesn't seem to have any correspondence to the cemetery region, because if I click on that and hit this period, that map is way over there. And that map, while it's geographically centered, it is not elevated. It doesn't have any of the digital elevation data. I'm going to try something here. I'm going to go into an overview and I'm going to try to bring in the elevation based on this and see if it'll give us any of that elevation information and apply it. No, it doesn't. There's something wrong. Maybe it's too big. So, I mean, I do see that if I go into GIS and I import yet another TIFF and I go from the cemetery region to this here, then this one, when I zoom in on it, let's see. Yeah, so there's this one here, which is just the region, and then on top of it, you can lay this one on as a bigger map. Yay for that. And the other thing we can do is bring in the other georeferenced raster, which is just cemetery, and then that does come in, and it comes in, you know, oops. So it just really needs to be moved up just slightly. And if I do the location very carefully there, and it comes up. And that way you can begin to get better imagery so that you have that one, and then you have the region, and you have this one here. So you're going from really big maps with low resolution as you dive in to maps that have more resolution and ultimately maps with even finer resolution. And there's all this rastering that's going on, which is somewhat unfortunate, and you have to keep playing with that. No, it's fine. Send it. So that's that. But then the problem is that we're not getting it in place with the actual exported map, which somehow ended up way over there. You can see it moving when I go from here to there. The coordinates are all wrong for some reason, and that is disturbing, probably because it uses a different projection. I would imagine that was what accounts for the discrepancy here. So I'm not going to work with imported shape files till I figure that out, or TIFFs until I figure that out. In fact, I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to get rid of this, because it's not situating right when I'm bringing them in from QGIS to match it with this map. I will see if I can bring in a larger map in here now, come into base map, and this is where you would choose the CRS. It's using Web Mercator, so that's got to be why it didn't come in right. And then if I do this and pull back, I can probably get another layer once the tiles come in. Or not. Okay, so that it's downloading all these tiles, but it's like way too big. But there it is. Okay, so that's a whole region in the map. And it takes so long to do this. And if I then hit E for extent, it looks like it's just lagging. So if I do finally let it work and then I do E for extent, I can get rid of that whole thing. And if I zoom in on this, yeah, it's also way in the wrong direction. So there's something funky really going on about this. Delete that again and let me go to this and zoom over. How that got messed up is hard to say. Let's do this again. If we bring in a base map and we tell it, yeah, fine, we want that piece. What happens if we zoom in? Yeah, it's like way over there. And that is not right. I wonder too, if I bring in now my QGIS files, will they lay in on this? So let's go to cemetery region and import the georaster and turn that on, turn that off. If we zoom here, yeah, this is all not working out. Then let's do the following. Let's just start with a brand new file. And we won't save this. We might as well. We're playing with animation on that one. I'll get rid of this cube. And I'll come in first. I will go to the web and go to maps.google.com. And I will go to, seems we have slow internet tonight, like painfully slow internet. So just let it do its thing. I'll put this on pause till I can come. All right, so you go to Tamaslut and then you go down to Akrich and you can find it near Villa Asmedati. And when we really zoom in here and come up, you see the cemetery right there. And then we can save this so that we can have it as part of my travel plans, and it's part of want to go and favorites and starred places and blah blah blah. So we'll find it more easily then. And then we're going to right click, I'm going to click in the middle of it actually, and grab these digital decimal coordinates, and then come into Blender and go to GIS Web Geodata Base Map and say OK, and then hit G for go to, and then put those coordinates in and zoom up to 20, and then hit OK. And using the defaults that are in the Blender, there we are. So it's right there, and that is how I can take a close-up, fairly good close-up. I guess that's the best it'll get. So let's get a little bit close. Too close. You always have to wait for the tiles to download. All right, that's not bad. Hit E for extent, and we have that shot. Then go to GIS and get the elevation information and hope that it works this time, because sometimes Open Topography with its wonderful 30-meter digital elevation is not available. And you get an error message, but let's see what happens today. So it's because it's up in the mountains. Okay, it did work. Yep. And so put it up, so as you can see, it put it up in the mountains there. So great for that, and we'll hit save on this, and save as, this we'll call Akrich Nursery for Spatial 2, and modeling, I'll just put that. Okay, and save this Blender file there for that. Now, as I mentioned, if we wanted to get a larger base map in addition to this, we'd probably click off of this and go to base map again and say OK, and this time zoom out and let it build its tiles. There's that little thing there, actual cemetery. So put it regional. We might go, and you're not going to get as defined detail in this mosaic, but we can find it in there, and then wait again. You see it says it's downloading those tiles up to 28. Oh, that's a little too big. So you have to be really careful how you use your scroll wheel and your mouse, because you're going to wait for this to happen. And I screwed it up by moving the mouse. All right, so there's that. Now if I move it over that way to get that region and then wait, I'll get more tiles loaded, and there we are. That's what I want. So now I hit E for extent, and I got a bigger map. And I want to also make sure, because I don't think this is going to, see, it's like underneath, and then this little bit here is like way up there in the air. So selecting the larger piece, I also have to get the elevation and hope that it comes in, unless it's too big for the computer to handle. It may work, it may work, it may work. Just situated in the mountains. So waiting. And okay, so it did come in. That means it's all matching up there. And we have, so this is the, I'll put this to be the region, and then this one will be the cemetery. Come on, let me click. That is cemetery. And then this one here, of course, as you can see, is much more highly detailed, because if I zoom in on the rest, it starts to get pixelated. But this one here retains, except that the DEM is obscuring it. So on this one, we have to go and raise it up just a tad, so it all kind of emerges from the digital elevation uncertainties. So once that disappears, all that blur of that pixelated stuff, we have a much higher resolution image that we can work with. All right, there we go. And then we can lock these transformations, do the same thing for this, so we don't accidentally move them. Lock the rotations as well, same thing with this. Lock the rotation. We can lock the scale and do the same for this. And that gives us the ability then to zoom in on the area we want to, and the rest of it, when we pull out, you can see its place in the topography. All right, so there's that. Now, to model this, we have a bunch of cubes here, so let's see. We look at it Z, looking down on it, and we will go and add. I mean, it'd be nice. I mean, if technically you should be able to come in here and go to GIS and go to Web Geodata and get the OSM now is the second thing, and take buildings in here and do the elevation from the object, which is the cemetery. Is it going to work? I don't think anybody's modeled a building there. Oh, it did. Okay, so we do get 3 cubes. Oh, they're really high though. So let's do it again. But let's, this time when we do this, let's bring the default height down to about, usually works out to put like 6 meters there, 18 feet or something. And then say again, and then they won't look like skyscrapers. So at least that gives us some buildings that are geographically precise, which is cool, but it doesn't give us much of else. So let's see, if we wanted to create a hoop house, such as we have here, then we'd start with a cube at the base for like a slab. Oh, and it looks like, look at that. This thing is still not high enough in terms of its Z coordinates. So we still need to bring it up to get rid of those elevation inconsistencies. There we go. Just a little bit more, and we can relock the Z. Ooh. And you see how it's clipping there? That is the thing that drives me absolutely nuts. You have to go to view, and you got to make your clip start like proper. And let's do that with this as well. It's the same clip start regardless. So sometimes that helps us to see the clipping. All right, so there's that. Clippings set big and large, and yeah. So now coming up to save. Coming up to model the greenhouse, let us add a mesh and make it a, I always like to use a cube because it already has dimension, but the cube always ends up way down there. So there is a way to undo it, and there is a way to add something at the point, because otherwise it goes to 0. And I'm not sure. I think you're supposed to go to a cursor thing. So cursor, and then place the cursor. And as long as that cursor is in the right place, then supposedly you can add the cube and it appears right at that cursor. So then with that, we can now rotate this locally and rotate in Z like that. And then we can easily hit S to scale and hit S to scale in Y to get it to be about the length of that. And move it with G. And then scale it in X because we're using local X to go like that. Move it a little bit back. And because of course the mountain is not normalized, it is going to sit looking up. There is a way to correct for that, and I'm going to find it out in a second and get back to you. All right, so there is a video that I watched and put in the group in Facebook for Envisioning Sustainability that'll fix this problem of the rise not being to the landscape because of that geographical error there. And I don't know if I want to tilt it. Maybe that is the way it has to work ultimately, but I want to see what this video says. And the video is here, and he shows
on to the 0 level, so they're underneath the map. So I'm going to lift them up, and again I'm going to add a shrink wrap modifier. I'm going to search for shrink wrap. I'm going to choose select project.
Right, so the first thing is he's adding a shrink wrap modifier. So he takes the buildings, let's grab all of them now, and he just moves them up above the landscape. All right, you can see these ones have curves, and mine that I created doesn't. And then he adds a shrink wrap modifier. So we put in shrink wrap, and he tells it to, and let's watch it again, make sure we do it right.
To select Z negative. I'm going to
Z negative.
Choose the island as the target, and that's going to snap those buildings.
So we go, where's my Z? Target, snap mode. Has it chosen something else? All right, so shrink wrap is not giving me the information the way we thought it would be. Wrap method project, I guess. Ah, yes, project. All right, then choose Z and negative. All right, and then target is going to be the cemetery. Boom, and they snapped. Oh, but they got really tiny as well. Oh, that stinks. All right, that's not good. So how come that happened? That's not nice. And I guess too, they're different objects, so it's not even letting me. Oh, I need to be back in this, by the way. So if I pick that and I tell it to use as the target this cemetery, they get flattened like crazy. So I don't like his method of doing that. What if I do mine and I do this shrink wrap modifier there? It may be because those were brought in from the OSM, but I don't know. So project Z negative. Oh, negative and positive won't work. Let's try that. And then the target is cemetery export. But again, it flattens it right up. So it really did shrink it in a not nice way. So if you go target, yeah, I don't like it. It's not what I want. All right, so that not good for his shrink wrap. But let's see about the orientation. Let's try out his method on that. So somehow he's got
onto the surface of the island. Then again, I'm going to add a new geometry nodes group here. We just want to extrude the buildings upwards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off this noodle here.
Okay, so that's what he's doing. So I guess we can try it. Let's grab all these. I guess they each have their own modifiers. Let's start with these guys. And we will pick the target and let them snap down. And then he's doing this procedure where he's adding a geometry node. So down here, instead of using animation, you go to geometry node editor. And then he's got something in here, but I don't know what we're supposed to see. Like, why is there nothing showing up there? So in his, something shows up a group in.
And that's going to snap those buildings onto the surface of the island. Then again, I'm going to add a new geometry nodes group here. And we just want to...
So you go in here and you say new, and you get this little thing here. So you get this group input, group output, and then he's adding a node. And how does he do that? He goes and says...
extrude the buildings upwards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off this noodle here, search for extrude, and I'm going to extrude them to a height of, say, 10 meters.
Okay, and then you can get more precise heights, so it doesn't matter what we had when we brought them in from OpenStreetMap. So we're going to put in extrude, and drop it there, and then take the mesh and drop it back in there, and then we will get it starts with an offset default of 1, but we can raise them up to however high on the landscape we think looks good. So maybe in our case 3.3 meters or maybe 4 meters, something like that. All right, and then he does this other procedure where he...
But what you'll notice is that they're coming off at the angle, the normal angle.
Right, let me make sure my audio is playing when I play this.
Angle of the terrain, but we want them to go straight up. Yeah. So in order to do that, I'm going to pull a noodle off the offset socket here, type in vector, set the vector to 0, 0, 1, and that will mean that the buildings go straight up.
All right, vector to 0, 0, 1, and then they go straight up. So pull a noodle off of, where did you pull it off of? Was it the group input or was it the offset? Wasn't watching, wasn't paying attention, got to go back.
That they're coming off at the angle, the normal angle of the terrain, but we want them to go straight up. So in order to do that, I'm going to pull a noodle off the offset socket here, type in vector, set the vector to 0, 0, 1, and that will mean that the buildings go straight up.
0, 0, 1.
So what we can...
Okay, so come here, pull off the offset, make a noodle, say vector, and then put it to 0, 0, 1. So I don't know if that's 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. That just, what happened to my extrusion? So like when I break this, whoops, they come back up. If I take this vector and put it into the offset and make the Z, well that's, again, the Z. That's not doing anything in terms of their extrusion. So what you doing, buddy? Sometimes you got to go into the HD. This is auto HD. So bring it way up there so you can see it better.
Do is we
Let's try this, make this bigger. So
buildings upwards. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off this noodle here, search for extrude, and I'm going to extrude them to a height of, say, 10 meters. But what you'll notice is that they're coming off at the angle, the normal angle of the terrain, but we want them to go straight up. So in order to do that, I'm going to pull a noodle off the offset socket here, type in vector, set the vector to 0, 0, 1, and that will mean that the buildings go straight up. So what we can do is we can...
0, 0, 1, and they're supposed to go up. Oh, that's not happening for me. Not happening for me, buddy. I put this up to 1. That didn't do a darn thing. But I guess because they already came in, maybe coming up. Let's try it with this guy here. If we make a new vector, well, first we gotta snap it the hell down. So say target our cemetery, where it goes down flat like that. We create a new. Actually, we can go to, this is interesting. You can go to here. If you like that, you can just copy this, I believe. See, and then go to your other thing and then say, yeah, that. And you can get rid of this and this, and yeah, so then it's snapped and it's big fine. I didn't have to redraw it. I don't know that that's really working though, in terms of it's not like it did change the angle like he said, so that's weird. That's how to use geometry nodes, I guess. I don't know. He said it came off offset. If you put it on selection narrow, that's not good. So what about selecting in Y? Oh, I see. Look, he was using Z. What if we put 1 for Y? Oh, that's a real mess. All right, what if we put 0.001? A little better. What if we put 0.0022? Interesting. All right, so there is stuff to play with here. What if we do the X? That bends it this way and this way. Why did he say Z? Z just does that. That doesn't change this. So I guess 0.001 kind of works for that, and 1 works for that. Huh. All right. Well, anyway, this is supposed to be a greenhouse, and that was fun. But now I need to shape this as a curve. So I'm going to look for somebody who teaches me how to turn a cube into a curve. And I'll be back with you. All right, I'm back, and I think I found something. So I found this really cool video, like this guy here, called "How to Make Round Edges in Blender." And if you
Yo,
replay it,
so you're in Blender, you want to make
he
shit
teaches you this stuff, and he's like
round,
really
and you have no idea how.
clever
You know,
about
you
it, and
don't
it's
want your
cool.
cube to look like a fucking.
Okay, and so he suggests that we go into edit mode. So I've got this greenhouse I'm trying to make, and you go into edit mode, and bam, look at that. Oh, it's way up there. Why? Why is it not there? It should be down here. Because you're going to go to this thing called the bevel tool right here, and then you're going to kind of, I don't know, it says to like select it and then use the scroll wheel, but scroll wheel ain't doing crap, but maybe, look at that. So it's not the scroll wheel anymore. You're like, cool. You can do like that maybe, and keep then scrolling it up or something. I don't know, it's just to select that, and then, yeah, you can, just like draw it out like that. Problem is, and let me go back, is before I use the bevel tool, I should commit. I need to commit. Everybody needs to commit. I need to commit this guy to its shrink wrap status and its geometry node status. And so we're going to have to go here and go, hey, you apply as a shape key, or just apply. And then I want to apply the geometry node to it that I did. And then that goes away and that's applied. And it's like I can't do anything more about it. This one still has its geometry node thing, and it still has its shrink wrap thing. But this is what I'm going to modify. So now that I've applied it, and I go to the edit mode, now in bevel here, I should be able to curve stuff. But I want this face and this. This is what I'm trying to curve. And I'm not seeing it. I'm not feeling it. Even though, like, if I click on it, yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's weird. I don't like the weirdness of it. It's not what I really expected it to do. So he has this thing where he says, oh yeah, you can select everything, and then you can, look at that, that's crazy. All right, so we don't want that. So really, if I go to line instead of that, and I'm doing it, I'm trying to, it's like a mess and a half. So that's not pretty. So I don't understand this tool very well. He just says you can use your scroll wheel to mess with it, and it's not. It is, but it's not. I mean, it's like kind of weird. I don't understand that. So wait a minute. Let me go and say get out of that. And say get out of that, and then we go to object mode. Is there only one object there, or if I doubled objects? Like, why am I seeing stuff here? So if I move this, yeah, it's just a single object. So let's look again at the craziness that he talks about, because he's like
Perfectly sharp object, because that obviously isn't realistic. How on earth do you do that? Well, you tab into edit mode, select your edge or whatever, you know, you can also select all the edges, and you take the bevel tool, which you can do by hitting shift spacebar and then command B. Shift spacebar opens this thing, and then bevel, command B, there we go. It's like, yeah, okay, so now you can bevel shit. How do you make it round? You scroll up. That's literally how I do it with the mouse wheel. Seriously, with bevel you can do like so much shit, right? Say we had this, so we beveled this, and we beveled this another time, you know, and now we scrolled. That is a cool shape.
Yeah, right. Okay, well that's not really helping. So I'm going into edit mode, and I'm selecting a side, which I want to turn into a greenhouse, and then I'm grabbing it and, yeah, kind of cutting it there, and then what? So then I grab it again, and all that seems to do, and then like I grab it and I use the scroll wheel. I'm not feeling the love here. Not for that. And it's not adding any kind of modifier that I can see. So what is this tool really doing? Maybe we have to loop cut stuff? Because even if I select that and I start doing the same thing on that side, I don't see it beveling. You see it beveling? I don't see it beveling. There's like no way to select. It's just making geometry, I guess. And is that geometry like true geometry? What is that geometry? Like I can keep beveling and beveling, selecting lines and faces and stuff, but it's not giving me the curve. Unless that is, well, maybe it is giving me a curve. Maybe the rest is kind of ghosted. It kind of looks weird. It looks like there's still part of the box. Maybe it was a two-dimensional box. So maybe you have to come in and go, okay, you know what? You, line, you lose. and just delete that, and you get that, delete that. Oh, I see. Yeah, right. So look at that. So I'm gonna, it's kind of working, but you'd have to delete those edges and delete those edges, and you have to delete that edge and that, not that, but that, not that. It's gonna be really messy, like, so you have to go back to points and say, all right, well, I just want to delete that, not that, not that, just that. So it gets annoying. I want that, and I'm going to shift click on that, and I just want to dissolve these vertices by hitting delete, and then, no, that was really messy. So it looks like it's all doubled up in here. I just want to delete that vertex. Bing. And then there's another one. There's so many vertices. Yeah, like that. And then you can do the same thing over here and the same thing over here. And yeah, little by little, we're beginning to get this curve up here. But it's like, is that really the easiest way to get this thing to look like a greenhouse? I don't think so. It kind of sucks. So maybe I don't want to do it like that. But how else would you do it? Let's pause and find out. Okay, so I found out something. I'm going to try. I'm going to go to object mode and get rid of this because even though it shows a little bit of promise, it's not what I want. So after all that, I'm going to delete that and start over. So I found this guy here, modeling simple low poly greenhouse in Blender. Let's see what this guy says. Yeah, of course. Duh. Stupid. Okay. Yeah, so what this person is doing is, and you can see it if you go back to the beginning here, adding a cylinder. See that? Adding this mesh happens so fast. So he goes cylinder, and then he rotates it. Half. Duh. Alright, yeah, should have done that from the beginning. So here we are, and I'm going to then go to my cursor and put it right there. Okay, and then add mesh cylinder, and the cylinder comes in facing how? Facing up. And I want to rotate the cylinder because we're in local. I'm going to rotate it on its x-axis by, that didn't work. I don't like its axis. Oh, globally. Do I want to do it globally? Let's try. Global. Right, now let's see if I rotate in x. Still no good. Really? What if I want to just rotate it? What if I want to, do I do local on this? And rotate it in y? Well, I guess I'm going to have to play around with it. But this 90 degree will certainly work. So if I say R90, oh, I get that. And then I say RZ90. Oh, that's the local Z. So this time go to global and say RZ and rotate it by 90. Kind of fits. Look down at it, rotate it in Z this way now. So it kind of lines up with the picture. And then it is not like flat, so rotate it up the, like that, whatever that is. Right, because it's not really X or Y or Z, but that can work. And then scale it up. And scale it a little bit more in the whatever axis we think this is. Is this X? No. Is it scale in Y? No, it's not. Scale in Z? No, it's not. So it's scale in whatever the hell we're doing. When that happens and you can't use the scale tool because you got this weirdness going on, this is when you would go into edit mode, and then you would grab, by going into transparency, you would grab just these points here and then come out of transparency and grab them looking down and say G. You can't really constrain them, right? So, because there's no axis that we're really on. And then you can go up into this and go and grab it again from here and go and look at it and go straight down at it and then grab it in Z and drag it out to there. And you have a little bit more like a greenhouse there. And then you can say, yay, hooray, go to this, tab it back into object and look at it straight on and go GZ as long as you're in global and put it down so that it looks more like the greenhouse that you always dreamed of having. And then you got to cut it. So you got to go, let's save here. You got to go in here and you got to tab back into it. And you've got to actually come in and let's see if I, no, hitting those doesn't help at all. You got to click off of it and then find the part underneath the ground. And it helps if you are again in here, because otherwise you aren't going to get everything. So you got to go and decide how much of this, shift, I'm not going to get shift. That vertex and that vertex, is that what's going to keep this thing? No, there's a vertex under there, so grab that one and then go back and see what about that back one there. That should give you, when you delete it, you have a greenhouse. There it is. All right, so we've got a bit of greenhouse going there. Doesn't have any surface on it here yet, so a couple of things need to be done that I think I know how to do, and one of them is to grab this and this and this and this. I should get the hell out of bevel because I don't want bevel anymore. And then you hit F for face and bing, puts a floor on your greenhouse. And similarly, if I grab all these points, I should be able to grab them easily by now going like this, there and there, and then hit F, I get a face there. And if I come around here and just grab those and hit F, I get a face there. Save that. And when I look at the whole scene, I have a greenhouse that is open. It's just doing this weird thing of being on the landscape looking in, but nobody's going to see that. All right, so I have a basic greenhouse in edit mode for that. And then because I have that, it looks like there's greenhouses over here. So I'm just going to hit Shift D and move this over here on the landscape. And then I can scale this down and bring it down. Right. And then I can go tab into edit mode and grab all of that, all of that, no, all of that, and then take it and bring it forward like that, and then do the same thing here. The advantage of being in this transparent mode is you get all of the points when you do that, even the ones that are unvisible, not visible. So now grab that and bring it back to there. And we have another greenhouse. That was cool. And then it looks like there's yet another greenhouse over here. So tab out of that. And nice thing, let me get this color too. I'll do that in a second. So let's grab this. Can we even get this? Oh yeah, grab this. Let's grab this and duplicate it again with Shift D. Bring it here, and it's way underground, so GZ and bring it up. Where did it go? Still there. You, come on, go up. All right, you're there. Look down on the world and bring it over here. And still too big. Scale it. It isn't horrible. We have a little bit of work we're going to have to do on all this, but you know, seems to be misshapen a bit. I do want to scale it, make it. I wish I could just scale it in one of the other axes, but it's like it's probably better to. If I rotate that a little bit. Yeah, it's not too good. Because the landscape is messed up. People's gonna be walking weirdly because it's not flat. But I'm gonna have time to perfect this. So yeah, it's kind of that. All right, kind of that. This needs to be rotated. I mean, this is the origin point's really messed up with these because if you try to rotate them, you got an origin way back here somehow. So this is where you'd hit P, or rather, sorry, Alt P, and you'd say clear the parent, and that way each of these is part of a parent. You need to separate them. So if I go into edit mode, oh, we never applied. That's why we never applied those things. Let's go back to object mode, hitting tab, and then apply our darn transformations. Boom. All right, so now that we have those, we can separate them by going into edit mode, and we can tell them, look, you three are no longer going to be, I mean, take any one of these and say, all right, you know what, you, and I need your other 2 points here. There. I'm going to hit P for separate by selection. Now it's its own, oh, did I do it right? Go back, so look what I did right. Yeah, hit P by selection, and it's its own object. And it can be moved around. Oh no, because it had many faces. So there's something still wrong with this. So Control Z out of that. I don't know why. Hit Shift, select all that. I think you could get all those points in there. It's like a lot more than meets the eye here. I'm not sure why. Because if I did select that, then I should have the whole thing out of here. Because if I go to tab, then that part is like that. What the heck is that? Like, why is there still something there? So something odd is going on that I don't want to necessarily take time with right now. So I think I'm just going to leave these things as is for now. I mean, do I want to mess with it now? Because another thing that I can do is I can go into edit mode and I can say, looking at it, looking straight down, I can say to these vertices, I can say to them, look, I'm going to hit G and I'm going to grab them and put them over this compound there, and then grab these vertices and put them like that, and then you can play this little game here of grabbing vertices and hitting the G key, kind of place them on the landscape in a way that you see fit. That feels better, right? So we can, yeah, we can mess with it that way and say, all right, what about you? And looking down, say, good, you should be up to this corner here. And you, I have to keep putting it in transparent mode so I can get the vertices underneath while looking at the top. And I can say go there, and then put this one here. A bit painstaking work. I probably could have done this faster by modeling it on cube myself without bringing in the OpenStreetMap stuff. Nonetheless, we are making some progress here. And if I grab that whole thing, and look down, then I can grab that, bring it right up to here, and then do the same silly shenanigan with that, and tell it to stretch over like that, because that's a shadow in there. That's a definite shadow back there. So however this thing works at the cemetery, we're now getting closer to modeling all of this. And eventually we can put some textures to it. So that gets us started in a little way. Putting trees in, because we have Blender Kit installed, and let me save this, it should be quicker to find a tree and go to it in the free first. There we go. And also make the size smaller, like a maximum of, in megabytes, it's like a maximum of, let's see if we do 100 megabytes, 80 megabytes, something good shows up. What about if we do 30 megabytes? Does anything interesting show up? Yeah, there's some trees there. These are fake trees. And there's some trees there. And there's some trees there. Birch tree, fake trees, pine tree stump, broadleaf tree. I don't know. Can try a broadleaf tree. It says it's 22 megabytes. And did that come in? Yeah, came in right there. So we put a tree up on the z-axis and look down upon it, and we can say yay for that, scale it up, and move it about, and then duplicate it and put one there, but scale it down a little bit, just varying heights, and duplicate it again and scale it down still further, duplicate it, there's a tree there, duplicate it, there's a tree there, duplicate it, put a tree there, duplicate it, that didn't work. Shift T, what's going on? Oh, they're all ending up underneath the ground because the ground is uneven. Right. So GZ, bring that up. GZ, bring it up. GZ, bring it up. Don't want those things underground, do we? Yeah, so we definitely got to bring these things up out of the ground, but we're now getting some nice foliage in there as we populate our area, and I'm just using the same tree to my chagrin. I could be more creative right now. Use them as placeholders for now and begin to get some vegetation in there. Right. So that's a start for what we want to do. And then we're going to make these rows where plants are placed. We want these to be really low poly. And because they're hemispheres, we really can just take this cylinder here and duplicate it and come over. I guess I can close this thing here. I don't need this window anymore. If I move this out into here and radically size it, really scale it super tiny, so really come down to make it like, yeah, like a row like that, because that's what the row is going to look like. And in fact, move it over to there and move it up a little bit. So to make these rows, what we will do to make it much more automatic, I'm going to make one of them by going into Edit and grabbing this end of it and then looking straight down. Again, I have to do it in the transparency mode so that I can grab all of the points. And then I'm going to say G, and I'm just going to stretch it out to there. And then I'm going to go and grab this part, and I'm going to grab it and stretch it out to here along the row. And then I'm going to tab out of it. And now I have this little greenhouse row, which, by the way, I want to color. So I'm going to go to color, and I go to new, but I want to make this color. I want to grab it with the picker and pick the black row. So that should have done it. Yeah, that's the material for it now, except that it's still gray for some reason. Why is that? Oh, because we're looking at it, we're not looking at it in color mode. Okay, there's the color mode. So it is gray. That's great. And I also want to do the same thing for this guy here. I want to make a new color for this, and I want to grab the base color from the greenhouse. So to get the greenhouse color, I want to move this, or I want to hide it. So hide it, there it is. And then go here and say color picker. What color do I want? That's a shine at the top, so I'm going to pick that darker color. And then when I Alt H and unhide it, it's there, and then we can make it shine later on. But that's the same color, and I'll call this color here greenhouse material. And then when I come to this guy here, I can tell it to be the greenhouse material, which is right there. And the same with you. This thing will not crash or whatever it's doing. It's being funky. Oh, what's it doing? Why is it crashing on me? I didn't do anything big there. You shouldn't have trouble giving me a greenhouse color. It's not responding. All right, we're going to put this on pause till it responds. I said I'm going to put this on said. Right, it's responding again. So here, greenhouse material, and boom. And you can do that to get nice sort of cool colors. Like these buildings here, they need a material, and I can add a material to them. But then for the color, I'm going to hit H to hide them, and then click on the color, click on the picker, and pick this kind of color here, sort of dusky color, and call that buildings. And then when I unhide these with Alt H, and they have that color on them. Right. So little by little, we're going to have to model all these other buildings too, maybe put windows in. As for these rows, pick this row. There's a modifier we connect, so we don't have to keep picking them and moving them. So there's a modifier that is called an array modifier, and it already made it. I did two. How many do I have? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Is it seven? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, roughly 7. They're a little bit different. So there's 7 of them. They have a relative offset, so they need to be something like that. The problem is that they are not evenly distributed and they're going at an angle. So I need to rotate them. Ooh, this is going to be weird. How to do this? Rotate them like that, and come over here and rotate them like that onto the ground. Yeah, we're getting there. And then rotate them down like that. And then you'd have to apply the modifier eventually. But they're different lengths, so, you know, how weird is that? So we have to try to accommodate the fact that they're different lengths, and that's probably going to be now by, because if I do the factor y, that's messed up. So I'm going to undo that. And if I do factor z, then they end up going like, no, that's not bad. Look at that. So the factor z, it's a little too strong. So let's try 0.005. No. All right, so one can take these and work with, as you can see, like that. But it seems like 0.05, and you can keep playing with it, makes it align a little bit better. And then we can do the rotation in Z just to get it a little bit better like that. And then we can individually go onto it. The factor Y is not one that we should mess with at all. The factor X is not, we've already messed with that. So that's going to be the basic look of this. And then they have to rotate a bit to get onto the landscape better. And then we have that. And then I can go in individually, as you'll see, and go into edit mode. And like we did before, I can edit and make things longer. The problem is that there's just an array right now. They have not yet got individual identities. So in order to make them be individual objects that can be edited, I have to apply that modifier. Now that I have that applied, I can go into edit mode and I can grab any individual edge like this one here and come in and use number 7 to get there, and I can stretch these out to make them somewhat precise. And again, you have to go into the what they call the viewpoint shader for the wireframe and keep going back and modifying them so you can get them to match the landscape fairly precisely. Yes. Hold on. So we're going to be finishing with this in a second. But you can see how exciting it is to be able to make 3D objects out of stuff and then be able to precisely align them with your landscape. And it doesn't take all that long. It's just a lot of precision work. You have to remember the tips and the techniques. But to come in, grab, and put on a song that you like and just work your way through the landscape with these simple objects. So in this case, it's just a cylinder. And bring that to there. Put this here. Okay. So, but do you see how I'm aligning these precisely? I have just three more to do. This is the High Atlas Foundation Cemetery that we're going to. So you just, again, grab the little black plastic planting thing and move it into place. And then grab the other end of it and move that into place. And here it's going under the landscape. So sometimes you have to be careful when you're doing this that you stretch it up in all angles because the landscape has a digital elevation map or a DEM, so it's not straight. But we can use that DEM and work with it. We don't have to panic and say, oh, DEM is distorting stuff, because we have precise control over these things. So here's another end to this piece of greenhouse fabric. And bring that, and you see that goes under. So move over this way and then start moving it above the DEM. And then you have to jimmy it like that until you get things to work. These ones also, look at how they went under the landscape. And we'll have to take that care of in a second. Let's just grab this one because they are long enough, as you can see, but they are, whoa, that's there, that one there. And so you're basically grabbing those. And now, yeah, those do go underground. So one thing I can do is I can try to twist this and rotate and lift them up like that, and then later on go and do more precision work, because it's clear that this one, when I go into edit mode, This one's now twisted in a pretty awkward way. So let's grab just that. And then go into this and then move it over like that. So we'll work on that little by little. At least what happens now is that when we start to do our fly through, we have the buildings, which we will of course fix, but we can start to get in and walk around. When we put this into spatial, we can walk around this landscape as we begin to define it. And these are all supposed to be, by the way, these are all supposed to be black. When we go to material, because and probably they got out of that because they were, I don't know why. What is this thing doing in my way? There we go. So the material is supposed to be black. Maybe we have to go, yeah, we have to go into materials to see that. Now you can see the materials are black now for each of those rows. And we can even then zoom in and we'll be able to put little plants. So my goal ultimately is to put little lettuce things and strawberries growing on those black rows and put a lot of more trees in the greenhouses. But that's getting there. So there you have it. All right, we'll get back to you when we are further along with this.